Yo and hello everyone. It is me, Kevin. I'm filling in for Kylie today. I
Ooh.
normally have the episode on Thursday, but it was very important to talk about this tonight. We had to jump on immediately after the show. Tonight we have Robbie and Sheldon here tonight. Say
Hello,
hello.
you. Kevin's joined by the Canadians.
This is for such a crazy episode for things to talk about here in America. I couldn't think of two better people to be here. The Canadians.
Yeah, bring the Canadians in. So
So,
how do you want to do this? Do we want to go through it chronologically and get there, or do you want to hit right at it?
can I just say, I thought this was going to be a crazy episode just because there was two tribals, there was two stuff, and then they slapped us across the face and gave us a deep episode. So it was a perfectly wonderful episode.
I think we should go. Let's start at the end, and then let's Tarantino it, and then go back to the beginning. How about we do that?
Yeah,
That works for you guys?
whatever works, man. I'm game because it's funny because in a lot of ways, what we see towards the end, there's a lot of things that led up to it in one way or
Yes.
another. And
Yes.
yeah. So you get us going, we'll roll in.
So we get there's two tribal councils, as we know, and then the second tribal council, there was a very, very important scene. There's two groups from the tribal. All that happens. We're going to get into the details of that. But one of the most important things that happens is that Roxroy was voted out in the first tribal council. Drea leads the group walking in, and Drea sees Roxroy sitting next to Chanel as she comes in, and her mouth instantly becomes agape. She just her mouth is wide open, slack jawed.
Shocked, absolutely shocked.
Because there's a whole group that's working together and everyone should be teamed up. But here we are. Roxroy is sitting in jury, which she could not fathom. And Jonathan's just as shocked, but shocked for a different reason. Then they all sit down. And Jeff, this is my favorite part about this episode. Jeff is asking Drea questions. And Drea is answering them, but she's not answering them.
I even said to my wife, I said, Jeff is trying to carry this with his charisma right now because he's getting nothing from answers.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I actually, so those first questions that Jeff asked and Drea's answers were so one-word answers. And that was before any of the racial stuff came up. And I thought, holy shit, I love Drea. I love how she's not going to BS anybody. This is like, you see exactly how she's feeling, and it's all there. And, one of the answers to her question was, I don't know. And I think the question was something along
a couple times. Yeah.
How
I don't
does
know.
it change the game? Is this... Is this, do you play more conservative? Do you play? And she's like, I don't know. And that was the truthful in them. She didn't know. She was so shocked. She was trying to put the pieces together. And in that moment, I was like, I want more Drea. Drea could never leave.
Yeah. And my wife even said, like, there's no way Drea is not playing the Idol. Right when she walked in. Right when you walked in, my wife said it loud. She was like, Drea is playing her Idol tonight. There's no way. And I think two of the other people who answered the questions, I want to say it was Tori and maybe Marianne. Two of the early answers before everything got really heavy was, I think Tori said, you know what, you come in here, it looked pretty straightforward, but we have to be flexible. We have to look at all of our options. And then Marianne said the same thing. She's like, got to look at everything, look long-term, look at all of our options. It's not as straightforward as it looks. And I mean, if you're Drea, like every other issue aside, that's already setting even more information that you list to say.
That's when you hit, though. You see Drea hit with this is straightforward. I'm playing my idol.
Exactly.
This is very easy, very simple. I'm playing my idol because I'm not going to be, I cannot be the next one. And it was intense because I see Drea walk in, and just like your wife, I said, oh, she's playing this thing tonight. The moment she looked at the who was out, because a lot of people try to say that the discourse of things that happen in the world should not permeate into the game, but they do. They have to. The game has changed because they have decided, as rightfully, that they're trying to cast more people of color, which is phenomenal. But it doesn't
help every type of representative group.
Yes. You want everyone represented as best as possible. But then when you look up and the first two members of the jury look like you, there is a very strong possibility that you feel like the next person of the jury tonight could look like those people over there. And as I look, there's two of us. I'm one and she's the other.
Yeah.
So in order to, and mind you, we both have things to keep us safe, but we could just be lulled into a sense of safety and not play something. And then now we're sitting next to Roxroy and Chanel. And I personally felt this, right? I felt this the moment Drea sat down and looked over. I was like, it's about to be 3 Black people sitting over there. That's exactly how I felt about it. And I said, this is going to be a rough road for Marianne going forward because Drea's about to get blindsided because she doesn't know what's coming. But Drea, in that moment, sitting there, had the same thought I had. It said, it's about to be 3 of us sitting over there. And I'm going to make sure at least it's not me because I'm not doing it. And so she plays her idol, and it immediately opens the discourse that is necessary in this kind of game. Because this game, this is beyond, this is deeper than everything that has happened before. As we saw in 41, everyone that went out there, they were talking about race a lot because it was right after George Floyd. This is months after that. So it is still heavy on people's mind and their hearts. And there is as Drea mentioned, there is unconscious bias that happens every day. And people look at people and it's not intentional most of the time. Occasionally it is. There are places that it is intentional bias. But in the game of Survivor, I think for the most part it is unconscious. And I thought it was very, very important and very good how Drea mentioned this is not, I'm not saying this is intentional. Mm-hmm. That me going out here next would not be intentional. I'm just saying that this is how this would be looking and how this, I'm watching this happen to me and I'm not going to be a part of it. And then Tori gives another diplomatic answer. Then Marianne whispers loudly because she's also getting worked up and says, I'm not voting Drea. I'm not, because I'm not going to be a part of the problem. Like, Drea could be bluffing. She could not be, but who cares? I'm not voting her. And that was even more powerful because Drea and Marianne are not aligned.
Yeah, I felt for Marianne in that moment because, not just the fact that there's obviously a lot of the racial theme when it comes to this, when the like you said, the unconscious motivations, whether it's intentional or not, things like that, especially the history of reality TV, which, it's obvious to see. All you have to do is look at casting, just casting alone. I mean, just numbers, it was there, right? Yes. And it still is in a lot of ways, but obviously people are trying to make progression with casting and representation. But for Marianne in that moment, I don't think it hit Marianne. Like, I think when Drea walked in, it hit her immediately. Yeah, I don't. Right? Look, where Drea was coming from, I think it hit her immediately. It was a shock of seeing not who they thought, right? I think the consensus was Romeo was going to be sitting there. And when it wasn't Romeo and it was Rox, that's a shock on its own. But I think the realization of the deeper potential motivations, whether innate or intentional, hit Drea first. And then it wasn't until I think Drea spoke openly, all of a sudden I feel like Marianne was just hit with a tidal wave of emotion. And if you know what we've seen from Marianne so far, it hits her really hard. Like, she jumps immediately to 11 on everything. So I can't imagine something that this heavy also hitting her in a moment where you're at tribal council, to the point where she was just almost overwhelmed, to the point where I was happy she got to the point where she said, I don't care what everybody says to me right now. I'm not voting Drea. She got people literally whispering in her ears, one shoulder saying this thing, one shoulder saying the other thing. And she just stood up for herself and just said, no, I don't care. Here's my beliefs. Here's what I'm doing. Game aside, I don't care. And I'm going to play mine too. Because, as you were getting at.
Well, before you talk about her playing hers too, because I want to talk about that specifically.
Yes, Sheldon, that's a whole thing on its own. Yeah.
So I think it isn't a surprise to me that Drea got that happened in Drea's mind before Marianne, and I believe, Robbie, you're right. But I think the context of their lives are very different. The United States is very different than Canada. That is
true, but I don't want to belittle the
experience.
experience.
Isn't to say there isn't
Canada,
racism in Canada, but the history of racism towards Black people is not the same in Canada as it is in the United States. And so the fact that it was sort of like bludgeoned or Andrea first makes perfect sense to me, because it might not have gotten to Marianne first. That might not have been the first thing that came to her mind. I will say that when I saw Roxroy go sit down beside Chanel, the first thing I thought was, holy shit, there's 2 Black people there, and the 2 people that were talked about as the potential next vote were who? Drea?
The next 2 Black people.
Marianne.
That's
right.
Yes.
And for me, that was sort of I had a moment of, well, is it because of race? Is it not? Is it part of that unconscious bias? I had a moment of, what the heck is actually going on here?
And this is where I'm happy that Jonathan, when he was doing his very horrible strategizing, basically said, I'm voting out people with idols. And he told it to the people who have idols. At least, like I said, there's undertones and everything like that. But at least he made what he felt his motivations were clear. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whether or not there's other underlying things. He was targeting people with idols, being Drea number 1. Little does he know, Drea also has 4 or 5 other things.
Everything in the game. She has it all.
It was a smart move to go after Drea from a survivor perspective of getting a whole bunch of advantages out. But that said, it's irrelevant when it comes to the perspective of somebody walking in, you seeing the people on the jury that you're seeing, and all of a sudden you can relate that closely. And she was right. She was targeted.
This is the thing that I didn't understand during that strategy talk that Jonathan was having, is why tell Drea to go for Marianne? Drea has made it clear that she doesn't want Tori. And so since when do you want to pull Tori in? And that's where the unconscious bias comes in. It's not the part about getting out Drea.
Did he know that Marianne had an idol?
Yes, everyone knew she had an idol.
And this is all I'm saying is he literally said to people, I'm trying to get people out who have idols. Now,
but if you're trying to blindside Drea, which is what the plan was,
going after Marianne was stupid. Yeah.
Correct. And that's where it becomes why did you pick Marianne when you already know she hates Tori? Why did you shut down Lindsay when she was trying to tell you that she already hates Tori?
Does Jonathan know that Drea had an idol?
Yes.
Are we sure? Yeah.
Yes, because everybody knew about the phrases.
Yeah. Oh, that's
and
right.
So,
he straight up said, I'm trying to go after people with idols.
Which was so silly.
Yeah.
It was fundamental.
But
dumb.
Going back to the tribal council, when Marianne is getting the whispers of stick to the plan, it was her standing up and saying, I'm not voting Drea. Like you said, Sheldon, I think the reason that it hit her over the head a little bit later was it had nothing to do with the race in the moment. She was like, I'm in on this plan. I'm working with the plan. Let's do this, until they're saying Drea had just made a very powerful speech. And Jonathan's still saying, hey, she might be bluffing. And then that's when Marianne's like, you don't understand that this is not a bluff you make. This is not based on the context, Jonathan. This is not a bluff. But Jonathan is the reason that she had to play her idol. People like Jonathan are the reason she had to play her idol, because Drea said it herself that if Marianne doesn't play her idol and I don't play my idol, all of a sudden,
I think you're mischaracterizing Jonathan, though. I think you are. And like I said, I just watched this episode 20 minutes ago or an hour ago, whenever that scene happened, right? About an hour ago now. When that was happening, I don't remember Jonathan saying maybe she's bluffing. I know Drea said this is beyond the game. I wouldn't use that in case anybody thinks I'm using it. Now I have to. I remember that part. But what I remember is Jonathan leaning over to Lindsay saying, we need to vote Tori now, but tell Tori, because she feels left out, tell Tori we're still splitting the vote or voting Drea.
But Tori has been whispering to Marianne.
Yes. Now that's Tori. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't put that on Jonathan.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, Jonathan's also whispering in the other ear. You know what I'm saying? They're all whispering.
Yeah, but all I heard from Jonathan was to vote Tori at that point. Right. That's all I heard.
Kevin, I'm really interested in your perspective and Robbie's perspective as well. Sorry to be asking the questions, but there was that moment where Jonathan said to Drea something along the lines of, "Are you saying that we're racist?" I thought that was such an interesting moment. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Jonathan going right to that place was intense, and it tells me a little bit about who Jonathan may be. The reason I say that is because as she is saying this, Drea is saying how she's feeling. Jonathan says two things. He says, I don't like that school of thought, because then you're saying that all of us are racist for thinking about getting you out. And she's like, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that this is beyond this, right? This game right here, there's unconscious bias. Things are happening in this game. Obviously, I was the one that was going to be voted out. I'm not saying it was because of race, but there is things that happen in these games because the black people don't last long. They just don't. That's not how the games are usually built for us. That's just the case. Well, the next thing Jonathan says, because Drea says, I'm not trying to be aggressive or loud or anything here. I'm just trying to be aggressive. And then Jonathan says, you are being aggressive. Yeah. Which is another point that shows that he characterized her as an angry black woman, which is a caricature of people that has been around forever, and
it's been cast that way. Not only has it been around for a long time, Kevin, but just to add to that, when you watch seasons of Big Brother and Survivor in the past, there are people who are literally cast to be that character.
Yes. If you think of Ashima, if you think of RealiTEA, like those are people that they like brought these people in to play this role that they're looking for. Drea is not that, yet here Jonathan is characterizing her as such, which Jonathan is a whole different bag that we saw this whole game, this whole episode, with him not listening to Lindsay early, not listening late, him saying to Drea that she's being aggressive in her defending herself. Mind you, Tori and Lindsay Lindsay specifically, is you see Lindsay's face that she's listening to Drea, while Jonathan immediately goes to saying that he's not a racist and he doesn't like the fact that they would even consider this. Don said here in the chat, Jonathan was way too defensive. When you get to that point, it means that this is not the first time you've had this conversation, right? This is not the first time this has come up. So for Jonathan,
I don't know, man. Like I hear what you're saying, but I also find it very difficult that if Drea is saying that race plays a role in how fast people or who gets targeted, okay? And you're saying that the players in this game appear to be using race as contributing. No, but
that's not what happened. Because Jeff said, "Do you think race has something to do with this?"
Yeah,
and she's like, "I don't know, but I know how race has played into these things in the past, and I'm watching a pattern happen here with Rock sitting there, and then me being the vote next." I'm not here.
You don't have to be a rocket scientist to put two and two together of how, if you weren't in that demographic, if you're not black and you're sitting in this game right now, and you have somebody who is black looking at the tribe or at the jury who happen to be black people on the jury right now not, but I mean at the time, yes, and saying, I'm worried in a way, whether she's saying the quotes or not, but the fact that she's saying the phrases she's saying at the time she's saying it, and the fact that she's going to play an idol. She's saying, I'm worried that race may be playing a role in this. She's not saying race is playing a role. Race is definitely playing a role.
Unconsciously.
I'm worried race is playing a role in this, right?
Unconsciously.
Consciously or not, right?
No, so that matters. But that matters. Okay, that matters.
That's fair. But what you're saying
is... Let me tell you what. Hold on. Let me cut you off.
Because what I'm saying is she's not differentiating between... Basically saying unconsciously is trying to say, I think race plays a role in this, but I don't want you to feel bad about it because I don't think you're doing it on purpose. Listen, Sheldon asked for our opinions. I believe your opinion 100%, Kevin. I truly do. Your perspective is one that I can never relate to and I try to learn from. Okay, and That's the best I can offer in a scenario like this. But from my perspective, which is totally different than yours when it comes to this scenario, because clearly I can relate more to the Lindsay or the Tori or the Jonathan here. Is it's more, I'm hearing, okay, is there something inside of me, unconscious potentially, right? Is there something inside of me that's leading to a bias I'm unaware of, and it's based on race? And that's what I'm hearing. But when I hear that, I don't look at that any differently as, are you accidentally racist? Is this cast or is this season, is this game accidentally racist or innately racist based on however the patterns happen to be? And she's basically, what I'm hearing is, Jonathan, I'm not saying you're intentionally coming out here and saying I'm coming to vote out anybody who's different than me or whatever.
He even says, I love you and I know who you are.
Exactly. And I think, but here's the thing. People can be racist without consciously doing it and without consciously being aware of it, right? There are people who are guilty of that day after day after day of their lives, never knowing it because they don't have the perspective to recognize what their actions are doing, whether directly or indirectly, right? Mm-hmm. Like, for example, casting on a show, right? Whether you're intentionally not casting groups or just unintentionally doing it, actions like that impact the real world. And if I was sitting on that cast, like I said, Lindsay or Tori or Jonathan, and I'm hearing that maybe there's a chance, I'm not being told, yes, there is, you're doing it. I'm saying maybe there's a chance that I'm unintentionally being racist. I'm unintentionally making decisions that I am somehow incorporating race in those decisions. Then I would be terrified. One, because maybe there's things I'm doing that I don't know I'm doing and I need to better myself, right? Number one, right there. Maybe I need to educate myself. And number two, you're sitting on national TV while you might be learning this. Do you know what I mean? So to have somebody get emotional on the defensive end makes sense. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it makes sense that maybe Jonathan in that moment, I'm trying to be given the benefit of the doubt as a human being here. Maybe Jonathan in that moment is thinking, holy shit, I am learning potentially that I'm a part of a group that's doing something unintentionally based on race that I need to smarten up, I need to learn. And this is a very difficult place to learn it.
But
do you know what I mean? Like, you're literally on national TV right now learning that, maybe.
But Robbie, that's where the problem comes in, though, is because the problem comes in because you're right. That's the right way to approach this, right? To think to yourself, am I doing something here unintentionally? For you to come in double-barreled saying, I don't like the fact that you're even thinking this way because you're calling me this thing that she did not call him. And then for us to even consider this is ridiculous. When you're coming in like that, double-barreled, hot as hell, it means that there's something deeper here. Because Lindsay didn't come in hot like that. Even Tori knew that if it's not Drea, it's probably her. She doesn't come in like this.
Jonathan, and that's fair, and that's 100% fair, Kevin. I think this is the whole thing that comes down to, okay, to bring this back into the Survivor realm, this is no different. Like, I know what got us here was very different, but Jonathan's reaction is no different than knowing what the right move to do is and the execution being horrible. I'm thinking that in this example, if you're at Tribal Council on Survivor and all of a sudden you have that pressure on you, I think Jonathan was freaking out and didn't know how to react. Whereas you have somebody like Lindsay who's like, you know what, in a moment like this, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to say, I better listen to this because maybe I have to listen. Jonathan just started freaking out. He started throwing names.
He's safe tonight.
But
it's not even going to be him.
But he's on. What I'm saying is he's on TV. I'm saying he was freaking out that he's on TV and he's going to get pulled to be. I'm not even going to say the guy's name from earlier seasons. Like, I want to say it was a 39 that was just like ruined his life. I think he was terrified in that moment, and I think he didn't know what to do. And part of me thinks, congratulations, maybe you should be terrified because welcome to what it would feel like to be Drea walking in there feeling what she's feeling right now. Right. So part of me feels like that's fair. As a human being, you're terrified as a human being right now. Welcome to what it feels like to have other burdens on you in a game. Do you know what I mean?
Correct.
And it's like I was kind of laughing at it a little bit from that perspective, how he's kind of scrambling and freaking out about, like, all he was really saying in my mind, what I heard him try to say is, please, for the love of God, Drea, tell the world I'm not racist. Right or wrong, He's just begging to be redeemed in that moment. Like, what did I do? Please don't get me fired, canceled, and everything else in the world. And his execution was horrible. And anybody who has 2 cents to their name should know, not from a money perspective, from a common sense perspective, should know you don't use the angry black woman stereotype. You don't use that. It is a known stereotype used in casting. And when someone turns to you calmly, when Drea calmly, turns to Jonathan and says, Jonathan, I'm not being aggressive. Don't please don't, but you are being aggressive. And she's like, and she turns around and buries her head in her hands. Cause she's like, what can I say right now other than just sit here and be quiet? Because I'm just going to lead more into that stereotype. And he's just digging his hole. Jonathan's just digging his hole at that point. And I'm like, I couldn't tell if like you said, Kevin, if this is an issue that's come up in his past, but I don't want to assume that because I don't know. And that's also another heavy label to put on somebody without knowing it, right?
Can I say a few things, some of which might be contradictory because I'm trying to figure this stuff out as we go as well. So not to go on the shitting on Jonathan, but earlier on in that episode, Jonathan had a confessional when he said, you know what? I can't be the aggressive one. I can't be the big one. But you know what? This is the round I wake up and I start being aggressive. Yeah. And what round was it? It's the round that he, as a big man, is by himself with 4 women. So this is the round that you decide to be aggressive?
Yeah.
I thought that was completely strange.
I think this is the episode where we saw Jonathan realize that you can't act the entire season. And I'm not saying that what we I'm not, listen, to be fair, I did also just say let's not peg him as what we saw today. Okay? But what we did see is the fact that I watched his audition tape recently. It was on YouTube. Yeah. It is polar opposite. And I know it gets you cast. You got to say what you got to say, whatever. That's what his angle was. But based on that, like his personality is not the loving teddy bear. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I think that he came in here wanting to play that because he knew as a big, strong guy. And to be fair, if Jonathan walked in there without safety, if he walked in there and saw 2 jacked guys on that jury, then he would have jumped to the same conclusion, not for the same reason. But when he would have saw that pattern, he would have played his idol. He would have done the same thing. So the fact that he's upset that Drea sees a pattern, whether it's race or any other pattern or demographic, is just like, wake up, dude. Like, look what she's seeing and how she feels. You would be the same if you were in any similar position whatsoever. And anybody who thinks that they would somehow rise above that position is lying to themselves. Like, if you were put in that position, that's how you're going to feel, right? That's what, I don't know. Anyways, I think Jonathan stopped acting this episode. And I think that, I don't think he's as bad as what we saw here, but I don't think he's as good as what we've seen before either.
Well, time will tell, because I think that he just lost the game. In truth, and we could talk a little bit about that in a second.
Yeah, he was never going to win.
The jury cannot vote for him to win. It's over.
No.
Can I just say a few other things?
Yes,
I have to admit that Jonathan's initial reaction of saying to Drea, so you're saying that the rest of us are racist, was in truth what I was sort of feeling. She did not ever say you are racist. And there's something racist going on in this game. But the math that was going on in my head was, well, if she's looking over there and there's 2 black people on the jury, and evidently I'm the one that's next, she's basically saying there's some element of race. And so the next logical step is, if you're listening to that and you're the one that's going to be targeting Drea, you have to get this defensive, or you logically get defensive, whether it's a racial move or not. So that's where my mind was at. However, I have to say that listening to Drea and Marianne, both of which who were so, I don't know how to explain it.
Eloquent is the word. Man, you beat me to it, but I have to say.
I feel bad using the word eloquent because that's also a bit of a. It's sort of like calling a black woman or aggressive, right? Or saying that a black person can't be eloquent. So I feel uncomfortable saying that word. But it was just so perfectly pinpointed to understand that very simply what they were saying is there is a pattern that's happening. The pattern happens all the time. Whether it be in Survivor or whether it be in real life. And the truth is, we have as two black women with two idols, have the power to stop this pattern right now. No matter what the reason is for this pattern, no matter what the reason Chanel is going to be there, Roxroy was there, or Drea was going to be targeted next, we could stop it. And this is not a good pattern. This is a pattern that needs to stop. And honestly, my perspective at that point shifted, because whereas I was sort of thinking, okay, well, this is sort of a racist sort of a thing, and there's a little bit of a defensiveness, I understood at that point what Drea was saying. I completely got it. And you know, I respected Drea a lot before. I can't say I respected Marianne a lot before, but their ability to say what they said in such a manner that made sense, and what, you know, might be life-changing for me. Honestly, like, I might look at this entire issue a little bit differently going forward. Sorry,
and that's why it needs to be shown, right? That's why they have to show stuff like this, because this game, the representation matters. And she said there multiple times. I've said it a lot in games I've played. Representation is the most important thing. And when you see someone out there that looks like you, you're like, okay, I can see myself doing this right here. I can be a part of this. And so but then when you look and you're like, oh, this is following the normal script of, I made it as far as I can go in this thing. We're at jury. It's about as far as we're going. It's going to be rough. It makes it harder. Watching Drea, I mean, the same thing happened last season, didn't it? Wasn't it Shan, Liana, then Danny?
Yeah.
Like, in that order?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to
that was an imploding tribe as well, an imploding alliance.
True. Hey, yeah. No, listen, you're not wrong, but I'm saying, like, it's being Big Brother Canada right now. I don't know if you're following BB Can, but it was Herman, then Moose. Yeah. Like, it was Tanisha, Herman, then Moose. Yeah. It was Tanisha, Herman, then Moose. It's a pattern. It's a pattern that happens.
Kevin, you have to admit, though, it's also a bit of a poison pill. When last season on Big Brother Canada, not to bring Big Brother and Big Brother Canada into Survivor Chat, but last season on Big Brother Canada, when you got down to the final three and the person who won and got to choose who was coming to the finals with them literally said, I want a black person to win, so I need to bring, even though I want to bring you, I need to bring this other person because they're also black and I can guarantee a black winner. If you're not black, and I'm not saying white, if you're any other race at that point, that has to be a threat playing in your mind as well. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's a bit of a poison pill here. Where
is it though? Because you look at the cookout.
It's lose-lose.
No, because you look at like the cookout, right? The cookout said we need that. Yeah. We've never had 23 seasons, 22 seasons. There's never been one of us. So we have to work together to make sure there's one of us.
Exactly, but what comes next, right? And that's a very uncomfortable
conversation. What comes next is you can go back to being your normal lives of trying to work with everyone else like that.
But in what reality do you think that's ever going to happen?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, because
what you're saying is now it's like, okay, the cookout happened. That whole cultural movement had a moment, which is true. So done. Moving forward, that's not true. The world is still unequal. The history is still unequal. Just because it's 1 out of 20 something doesn't mean it's equal now. Like, the motivations aren't going to change, which is really sad, because I feel like a lot of the motivations and the fears of a lot of diverse groups now are going to be to band together in different ways, which hopefully, like, I was loving this season for the reason that I hadn't seen a lot of that, where it was men versus women until this episode, where it was, gender versus gender, where it was everybody with everybody. And I even said at one point, I'm like, you know what? This is what I think that the casting was going for, where, years after it starts, the whole point is that everybody coming in here should be treated equally. And you shouldn't see a string of 4 black people getting voted out in a row like we almost saw today. Those things shouldn't happen just because of
Robbie,
race. But I'm curious what the aftermath will be.
My guess, and I could be very wrong, is that the aftermath is that this is where it ends. Because if you think of George Floyd. George
Yeah.
Martin is a completely different person. George Floyd happened, and then we saw similar things going on in Big Brother Canada. We saw similar things going on in Big Brother US. Yeah. And right after, both of these last 2 seasons of Survivor were filmed. So these guys, Drea didn't know what happened in any of those seasons.
I hear what you're saying. I just feel like it's very naive for like me as a white guy to be like, okay, now your culture got one, we're even. That's just not real. Like culture's not even now.
But,
do you know what I mean?
The thing is, though, is it? Are you now going to be targeting us, me?
No.
Because you're afraid that we are going to quote unquote band together, even though white people have been banding together for millennia. Well,
exactly. And this is what I'm saying is if you were to play Big Brother next season and you see a Cookout 2.0, it doesn't matter what the race is. You see an alliance. But that's just going to be the reality of whatever other demographic is in the house. It doesn't have to be white. It could be any other demographic.
But you just said a Cookout 2.0, right? That's the point. There's the brigade. There's the moving company. There's multiple all-white alliances.
But there is a different context there that there were only one other black person there. And when you really so to me, one of the reasons I've loved the casting of Survivor for the most part and Big Brother over the last few years is not that it's 50-50. It's that when you make a decision that you don't need your one token gay and you don't need your one token black, you actually get to see that there's a million different types of black people.
Yes.
And there's a million different types of gay people. And it's not just your angry black woman like Chima. I forgot it you brought up.
Shima,
right?
Yeah.
So I just want to say something that might be a little contradictory. And I'm a little uncomfortable to say it, but I'll say it anyways. Wasn't Drea the right move? She had immense power. She had all of these different things. Of course, they only knew, some of them knew about some other stuff, but wasn't she strategically the right move? Forget the race. Forget any of that.
Right move. You know what? I'm going to put a pin in that question.
Yeah.
Sure. And let's Tarantino it. Let's take it back to the beginning.
Cool. Let's do it.
Let's take it back
we're 40 minutes in. We can't just go to the start. We can't just go to the start.
So we get back. We are going to go back to the start because we get back from Tribal, right? Initially. They get back from Tribal. Chanel's gone. By
the way, sorry. Chanel looked gorgeous. Just
beautiful.
Gorgeous.
So High is upset.
Oversized green sweatshirt. Gorgeous.
Well, High's a little upset because he saw his name last night. Romeo made a little speech about, if it's me, it's me. But, thanks for keeping me for one more night. But Romeo's scheming. Wrote High's name down to get him frazzled.
Romeo showed how you play this game from the bottom.
Yes.
I am not a Romeo fan, but that was textbook. You cast a vote on whoever has the power. You get them paranoid. You lie about it and deny it. You don't come out and just open, I'm sorry, I had no choice. Like Chanel played herself out when she started telling people, yeah, sorry, Mike, I had to vote for you. So lie about it. God damn. But anyways, so no, he played it perfect. And then the whole, listen, guys, I appreciate you keeping me. You had to vote for somebody in case it was a tie or she played her thing. I get it. Yeah. And then go to confessional and be honest. It was textbook. I loved it. I don't like his gameplay as a whole, but today I loved it. I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Sheldon, you got any thoughts?
No, I don't have. Listen,
so
Romeo is somebody that
intrigues. I don't have any thoughts, but here's my thoughts.
Romeo really intrigues me in this game because it feels as though he's an oddball that doesn't actually fit anywhere, but is going to be scrounging from the bottom until he dies or wins. Like it doesn't feel like he has any real relationships. His one real relationship with Drea is over. She doesn't care anymore, but he's not going to give up. And I have to respect the fact that, you know what, he saw one option. Let's get High confused, scared, terrified. Let's do it. I respect
after today, he might be safe for a while.
Absolutely.
Well, Don says it perfectly. That vote that Romeo did got the exact reaction he was looking for. It got High mad. It got him, knocked him off his roost a little bit, and it got him frazzled. And I appreciate him playing that from the bottom, right? The same time, we see Roxroy, Mike, and Jonathan at the water well, and they're like, hey, Why can't we just stick to the dudes, man? You never see this. Guys working together. What a novel concept.
Well, it was Roxroy, first of all. I don't think the rest of them were jumping on it.
Mike and Jonathan were 100% with that plan.
They were 100% with that plan, but anybody goes up to you and says, go. But if somebody offers you an alliance, I say, yeah, hell's yeah. You want to be in the all-lesbian alliance? I'll take it. I'm there. I don't care.
No, okay. I don't feel like you could defend Mike and Jonathan in this because, yes, it was Rocktroy that said it out loud, but Jonathan and Mike have spoken before about wanting to make sure the big, strong dudes, we normally get taken out first. We need to go deep. Yeah. Then Rocktroy says, it's us that gets taken out early. And they're like, preach, brother, preach. How can we stick around? Tell me about this, because this fits what they've been saying for the longest time. Now, I thought it was very interesting because after he has this conversation with the two of them, he then goes to Hai, and he goes to Omar, then he goes to Hai, and it's like, us strong men need to stick together. The men, 5 of us, let's do it. And Hai and Omar are like, sure,
okay, yeah. Okay.
But again, on Sheldon's point, like, even if you do it for one vote, if somebody comes up to you and says, I want to offer you safety just for a day, I am on board. I don't care what the alliance is. If most of the people I'm working with are also just happen to be in this group, that's fine, right? I'm thinking, okay, so that means you can get rid of Tori. If you wanted to get rid of Marianne, you can get rid of Marianne. If you want to get rid of Drea, get rid of Drea. And who else is Lindsay? Obviously, nobody's going after Lindsay at this point. But, like, you could pick one of those people to go just for that one vote, and it keeps you to the next day. And I was surprised that they shot it down so fast and at least didn't play along with it a bit more.
Well, what do they need it for? Like, Omar is so well positioned. Like he has all those guys anyways. What the hell does he need them all guys?
Yeah, on top of that, Omar is working with Marianne, right? Yeah. Omar is masquerading as if he's on the bottom. Why would I go with this thing? In addition,
everybody wants Tori, right?
Says, well, even better, Omar even says, Rox has never spoken to me a day in his life. And now he's trying to tell me, let's get the people out that I'm working with. This doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And it's sad because the math was there. Like, it makes sense. Like I said, I would jump on that for a vote, even though those guys would crush me in challenges too. Like I'm no challenge beast, king of masculinity over here. Like, those guys would destroy me in these challenges. But I'm like, if that gives me a reason to throw all their votes onto somebody else, and at least I know where their votes are going, like, I'll roll with this for a vote. Maybe we'll get Tori out anyway. We were all going to vote for her anyway.
What I don't understand,
whatever it is, because you don't know what's coming, what twists are coming, right? Make them think you're playing with them.
What I don't get about Roxroy is, wasn't he working with Drea? Like, why did he just forget her? What? Like what? Why?
It doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense, but I understood where he was trying to come from, because he was trying to keep himself safe and thought, hey, I can pull these dudes together, because Romy, for whatever reason, Roxroy's been playing Survivor 7 or 6. I don't really no idea why
Rox played himself out of the season today. Like,
yes,
he played himself out.
Correct. And so Omar goes and tells Hai the same plan. Hai's like, I'm not on team masculinity. I'm not really here for that. Why would I roll with this? This makes no sense for me.
Team misogyny.
Team misogyny. Yes. And I'm not here for this. And I was like, bruh, this is setting up a Roxroy exit immediately.
It looked so bad for him so early that I thought he must be safe. Because they were making it look like they were trying to say, okay, Romeo protected himself. Romeo is safe now. Look at Rox. Everybody over here, look at Rox. Look at Rox.
Except we had 2 tribals. Right? So when there's 2 tribals, when it looks like it's going Rox, they're going for the Rox.
And it's just like you said, he played himself out. I feel like if he just would have floated this episode and just played it cool, I think Romeo would have been gone. I don't think he would have rubbed Omar the wrong way. I don't think he would have rubbed Hai the wrong way. And like, you even see Romeo saying, like, Hai hates me. Like, he does not trust me. I will not go with Hai. And then I think as bad as Rox played, I think High might have played an even worse episode, even though he didn't go home, which is hard to believe because if you go home, that's got to be worse. Okay, I'll take that back. Rocks played a little bit worse.
How come?
He went home, but
how come?
Well, let's get into that. Let's get into that in a minute because we get to the challenge, right? The challenge is the classic doghouse challenge. Everybody got to stand on the doghouse and keep your feet up there. But for whatever reason, it's a rough go in these waters out here. They split the groups into two. So they split to two groups. We got Drea, Jonathan, Tori, Marianne, and Lindsay on one group. And then the second group is Mike, Rox, Omer, High, and Romeo, right? So when you first look at the groups, immediately you think, okay, Romeo and Tori are gone. This is an easy, as long as they don't win, they're going to be gone immediately. Done. And then this is another time, just like last season, where Jeff says the two groups, whoever stays the longest, you're going to be able to get a reward. You're going to get some beef and veggie kebabs. And you're like, okay, that's great. That's fine, Jeff. The challenge starts, and within the first 15 seconds, half the people are out.
Insane.
Who was first? Marianne?
Marianne was first technically, because it looked like it was Marianne, then Rox, then Mike, all in a quick succession.
Can we talk about this? Because I have to say, I do not like it when in challenges they lose for reasons that has nothing to do with their ability. That challenge should not have happened. That water, again, just like a few times
ago. This is more boo-hooing about the challenge.
I don't like it.
It's Survivor. You want to win Survivor? Win the challenge.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't want to lose a challenge because y'all decided to put a water challenge when
on the windiest day.
Honestly, I thought Tori was going to win that because on a normal day she would have stayed up there.
Correct.
Like,
and not just that.
I think the challenges are made for individuals to show their skills, not to be interfered by water.
Yeah, so Robbie, when you're out
there, you're saying the best person didn't win. Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
Hold on. There's a blueprint on how the strategy, the challenges are going to go. Obviously, they have it planned out what day such and such.
Sure.
Because of the weather conditions, they should have a backup. It's weird that they don't, because Jeff says from the jump, this water is extremely rocky and the wind is blowing you. Yes, earlier this season, we had to get the people out there to come save you guys because of how bad the water has been out here. In this particular season, we're seeing storms and waves that we don't normally see here in Fiji at this time of the year. Mm-hmm. But we're going to run this challenge anyway, and we'll see how long anyone can stay up.
I feel like it was the same weather, and they just went further out so the waves wouldn't be capping. You know what I mean?
This weather was. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not saying the same weather as previous seasons. I'm saying the same weather as the bad challenge at the start. The difference was at the start of the season when they had the horrible weather, they were on the shore, so you get the riptide pulling you out, you get everything else. So basically, this time they said, let's go another 100 feet out, and it'll be wavy.
It won't
be so bad. But here's the thing, Sheldon. What you're saying is that the people who won wouldn't have won if it was calm. Is that what you're saying?
Potentially, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, well, tough shit. Be better at the challenge. Like this is Survivor. This is Survivor. This isn't freaking Bachelorette where they need to go out and like
be better at the challenge, Robbie.
On some dainty water or something.
Sheldon,
be better at the
control the storm. That's not fair. They were balancing.
Yeah, the storm was fair for all of them. That's like saying, oh, it was raining, so we shouldn't do it today because it's raining, and maybe I have better grip in the dry weather than you do in the wet weather. So
I think think raining is different than a balancing challenge. That is literally
it's a balance challenge.
The only time they should pull people out of a challenge is if their life or limb is literally at risk.
Don't pull them out the challenge. Change the challenge.
Maybe this was the backup challenge. Maybe this was it.
That'd be a problem.
I'm just saying. Boo-hoo.
This season, the airing for this was later than usual. Because I wonder if this is actually the normal Fiji water during this time, but we've never seen it.
Well, they filmed too, like Bang Bang, right? And I know they do that quite often. But I'm wondering
if they started late.
But exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder what just due to the world being in the position it was if they were delayed getting there and all that stuff. But once again, it was fair for all of them. They all had the same waves. I'll give you a caveat. I think Romeo had slightly harder waves. He's the only one. He's the only one.
So Romeo should have won.
He's the only one. I said at the start of the challenge to my wife, I said before they even let go, Romeo, because his was right by the dock, right?
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I don't know if waves were like bouncing off that dock or what and just changing it. His was bucking like a Bronco, man. It was just all over the place. And
because they shouldn't have been running this challenge.
But that's Survivor. if he would have won, he'd be like, oh, well, whatever. Like, who would you, Sheldon, who would have won and you wouldn't have complained? Right? Like, are you upset? Are you upset that big evil Jonathan won?
No, I don't care that Jonathan won. That's right? It's not the who.
Are you upset that High won?
No, it's a balanced challenge.
Yes.
It's a balanced challenge with a little bit of waves. But
so go figure the two most physical
like this,
the two most physical people won. Right?
I think you could argue that High is not number 2. I think.
Well, who would you say is number 2 in physical challenges based on this season?
Tori, she won 2.
Yeah.
I mean, what? Yeah, maybe.
And she was out within seconds.
Yeah, well,
she was out within seconds because
and now she's gone home because it was windy. Now she's gone home because it was windy.
Jonathan. Props to Lindsay, because Lindsay battles it with Jonathan for a while. Props to High for staying out there, because he could have did like
I thought Lindsay had it, man. I thought Lindsay had it.
I wanted Lindsay to have it.
So there we go. Yes. There's the answer, Kevin. If Lindsay would have won, the weather was fair.
No, the weather still would have been fair.
No, I get it, Sheldon. You want everybody to be on vacation and have the easy challenges.
I
would rather them have to hold their breath. Whoever can hold their breath the longest wins. Risk drowning. This is for $1 million, man. Like,
yeah, let's move on because I'm gonna fire Robbie in a second.
Yeah.
Jonathan wins and High wins, and then Jonathan wins overall. They get the food. Those two battled for a good almost 5 minutes, I believe.
To be fair, it's the worst thing that could have happened for Jonathan's game. Like,
why?
It gave him the confidence to ruin his game.
Well, we'll get to that because first we get back to they send the men to the one beach that doesn't have the food, and then it's pretty calm over there. Mike thinks that should be an easy vote. Romeo will be the easy answer to go home.
Easy.
Rox and Romeo, though, are definitely in trouble here because Omar already thinks that, hey, I don't like the way that Rox came to us. He's coming for you, Romeo. If the two of us vote Rox, High's the swing. And then that's when Romeo hits Robbie. He hates me.
Yeah.
Can I just say, this was, again, I don't know if it's 3 episodes in a row, where Omar had a great night. And I think what's great with Omar, and I think what is going to get him far along in this game, is not just that he's strategically smart, but he is so gosh darn lovable that masks people's ability to look at him as a threat. And I like, prediction alert, Omar is going all the way, folks. Omar's going all the way.
I think Omar got really greedy in this episode, and I think that his execution once again is flawless. Okay, this is the difference. We talk about plan versus execution. You can have a great idea and execute it horribly. I think he had a bad idea but executed it perfectly.
Why?
And the reason for that is the same reason Mike said to High. Okay, the fact is, when they go back now, or even at that tribal, we saw it happen like 5 minutes later when all shit went loose, whatever, shit hit the fan, where like nobody knew who to trust and why and everything, because of the fact that, like Mike said, if we show that we're going to go after our alliance the first second that we have a chance, nobody's going to trust us. Every time that you and I walk up to somebody High, nobody's going to trust us. The same thing for Omar. Whereas if this plan would have happened and High didn't go to Mike and they basically burned Mike a little bit, then Omar would have been under the bus just as much as High would have been. The difference is, because High went to Mike, High played it smart at that point. He went to Mike and said, here's what we want to do. You're my number one. I want to work with you. Do this with us, please. And then he didn't listen to Mike when Mike spoke reason to him and said, listen, I get it, but we have a safe vote here. We can still get a number out, keep our alliance strong, move forward with all the people that we want to work with, not flip over any boats yet, not rock the boat. And High still didn't do it and forced Mike's hand to be with the numbers on the vote. That saved Omar, because now when Mike's going back, I guarantee you Mike is done with High. Because High forced his hand.
If Omar does this on his own, though, right? If High just goes with them on his own, and Omar does it on his own, what's going to happen to Omar? He's now with the people on the bottom. Guess what? He's already with the people on the bottom.
Omar is
he's got a taste of control now. He's got a taste of control, and here's the last point I want to make.
Omar's been in control since the merge.
I get it. No, he had a taste of control, and now he's addicted to it. And now he's showing his hand, but he's showing his hand to High. He's showing his hand to another smart player. He's saying, "Look how much control I have. Look what I got you to do."
No, he didn't show his hand to High.
I wanted him gone anyways.
We're working together, my guy.
We will see.
My guy.
That's what he said, right? He said we're working together.
But I think this makes sense for Omar, because he's pretty well insulated. Because if everything goes to plan, he has his original Taku, the 4 of them. I think they're Taku. Jonathan, Omar, Marianne, Lindsay still intact. That's 4 of 8.
And I think that was the real reason. I think that was the real reason. And I said it two or three episodes ago when we did our podcast. So I said the numbers at that point were 4-4-2, or they were getting to be 4-4-2 when it comes to who's left in the tribes. Now it's 2 Ika, or Ika, whatever you want to say it, 4 Taku, and 2 Vadi, right? So Omar's been playing the long game. I just feel like when you're down to 5, he got lucky, because now when they go back, Mike is going to have to defend himself. High is going to have to defend himself.
And Omar is scot-free.
In the end, because of how High played it. That's what I'm saying. It was a great execution of a bad play.
I love Omar.
Well, he's playing great, yeah. We
go to the other camp, and everyone's eating up. And Jonathan, as you said, feels that now's the time for him to play the game. He's going to go to these ladies and basically strong-arm them into doing what he thinks is best, which is not even great strategy. So earlier, Sheldon, you asked, is the right move for them to go for Drea?
Yeah.
It is not the right move for most of them. And I say that for this reason. Drea has been loyal to Jonathan so far, and Drea is a physical threat, and he's worried about other physical threats being gone. You shouldn't be shooting for one of the ones there. In addition, Tori has been the easy vote, but she's won immunity twice. This is a open and shut case. Jonathan has 2 of his other tribe members here with him. Drea does not like Tori. Tori does not like Drea. Drea, you know where the stuff is, at least her idol is. You know Tori has nothing. Tori has beaten you twice in individual immunities. Tori makes the most sense for Jonathan to send home.
But you see, this is where, going into that, I thought the vote would be a 2-2-1. I thought it would be 2 on, I thought that there would be 2 on Tori, 2 on Drea, and 1 on whomever they told to vote. And that way, Drea would pull her idol and use it, and Tori would go anyways. That's what I thought would happen.
Why would you want Drea to use her idol if you know where it's at and you know that it could be re-hidden? If I know that it's in your pocket, I know it's not out in the game. I also know that it's in your pocket because we're working together. There is an alliance of Drea, Lindsay, and Jonathan. It doesn't make sense for Jonathan to want to blindside Drea, especially in a point where you have the numbers right here, and then you have to go and explain what happened to the rest of your alliance. This was one of the dumbest moves I've seen, because the execution was going to be poor, especially how it was planned out. But going for Drea to begin with, for someone that is so loyal to you, and Drea, her personality type is one of being blunt and honest and to the point. So Jonathan has bonded with her. It's crazy that he wanted to go.
There was better ways to play this. There were better ways back to the execution versus idea. Trying to get rid of idols when there's only going to be 8 players left in the game is a very smart idea.
Not a bad idea.
Remember what that means. 8. Like Final 4, the game's basically over, right? So you got 4 more votes at that point, right? So you have how many idols in the game at final 8? Like that's a very big deal. But I mean, like a more strategic player could have got her to burn the idol just by trying to warn her that maybe votes were coming her way, whether they were or weren't. You could have got the votes against Tori, but then once again let Drea know that Tori was going to vote for her. Who knows if she's playing her shot in the dark? Whatever.
Even better, Robbie. Hold on. Is that you already know that Marianne is the other one you said you can vote. You go to Drea and say Tori and Marianne are sticking together. I think Lindsay might be wavering that way.
Yeah, I think Tori got to Marianne. That's all I have to say is I think Tori got to Marianne. And that's it. And then try to get her to play it. And this is what I'm saying. I don't think having Drea as a target to get to idol out is a bad idea, but I think it could have been executed better because you don't need to vote her out to get the idol out. I think you could have played her a little bit. And I think Drea having so many tools that she has probably would have played it because she still has all of the other tools. She's not grasping onto that one idol thinking this is the only thing I have to save me if it's a fan. She's got 3 other things? Right?
What I don't understand is why the plan didn't seemingly change when Lindsay pointed out his flaws. I don't understand. It seemed like they were all still going in to vote Drea. And
I think Jonathan had given up on Marianne when they made the whole alliance without her. I think he had power hungry. He's got the guys alliance. He doesn't care about Marianne anymore. And it's stupid because Taku, he's not a strategic guy, right? So he's just not thinking Taku.
Well, he didn't think this through. And like Sheldon said, when Lindsay's like, this is why your plan doesn't work. Instead of just berating her, which is what he decided to do, and tell her that she didn't know what she was talking about, he didn't sit there and go, huh.
And I want to touch on that. I want to touch on that for a second because we talked about the race conversation that happens at the end and how Jonathan didn't necessarily do himself any favors with how he reacted. Yeah. I think this was a just as strong window into who he is as a person. This right here, where he told her, like basically to Lindsay, like, I can't listen to you while you're getting emotional.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
He kept throwing, like, she was not emotional.
No, she was being logical.
We have seen castaways who are overly emotional, okay?
Yeah.
Nora and people freaking out at you and just like, you turned your back on me, you're dead to me. Okay. Lindsay was saying, but why Marianne? Why wouldn't we do Tori? Because Marianne is part of our group and all that. Well, you're not listening to me, and I can't listen to you when you're talking at me emotionally like this. You just need to. You're not understanding what I'm saying. That right there was like, whoa, that is not how you talk to anybody, and that is definitely not how you like. That appears to be how he wants to talk to the women tribe.
I completely agree with you.
I'm just like, man, like, so that stood out to me, and. Maybe it's because I was sitting there beside my wife thinking like I would never like berate you like this, and especially on national TV, like that's how
in private I would, just not on TV.
In private, I'd be like, give me the directions before we hit the turn, not like turn right here.
I think,
but it's like you don't talk to people like that, man. You don't, especially when again stereotypes. He doesn't get it. Like you can't look at a woman and say you can't talk to me when you're emotional like this, and she's talking to you like, calm. Like,
I think two things happened.
That's Jonathan coming out. That's Jonathan coming out.
Two things happened to Jonathan. Yeah, I think we're seeing a little bit of his true colors, although, of course, this is TV. It's an edit. I don't really know what Jonathan actually is, but I think we're seeing a lot of things. But I think two things happened. Number one, he won, and he felt safe, so he felt he could do something. Number two, his brain, Omar, was not there. Correct. And now we're seeing life of Jonathan and how Jonathan plays the game when the brains are not around.
Do you ever see the show Pinky and the Brain?
Yes, he's Pinky. He's Pinky and Omar's the brain.
There's no, but I'm saying the brain rides around in a robot, human beast robot. Well, yeah, Jonathan's the robot, and brain was off on another mission, and the robot is just spinning in circles, waving his arms everywhere, hitting anything in the way, and is really good at balance.
And Dawn is so right. In that moment, Jonathan let Lindsay know that he didn't care if Marianne was collateral damage.
But he couldn't even justify it. When she said why, all he had to do is say, she also has an idol, and I want to get an idol out no matter what. We have final 8 tomorrow. We're waking up at final 8 tomorrow. We can't have idols in the game unless we have them.
Which is why, who did we see?
He goes, let me think about it.
Who did we see in the previews? We're sitting together and plotting against a dude. It was Drea, and it was Lindsay.
Yes, because so Jonathan has made it very clear he doesn't care about the women, right? Yep. He has made it very clear the way he was speaking to them, the way he was treating them. Marianne even spoke about it, that he treats her like a child. And then he's cutting Lindsay off. And now you may want to sit here and tell me that it's the edit, but you cannot edit him telling Lindsay. We watched it come out of his mouth, telling her, I cannot speak to you when you're this emotional. You're obviously not thinking this through.
You're right.
You can't edit that. There's no freaking bites there.
Saying, shush, a man is speaking right now.
What I'm saying is we saw 30 in the room. What I'm saying is he obviously said that, and it was obviously rude, and it was obviously wrong. But we only saw 30 seconds of what might have been a 30-minute conversation. I don't know what else happened. That's all.
No.
What I'm saying is that on Twitter, the discourse will be tonight that it's an edited show and we don't know everything else that happened in that conversation. That soundbite, I would never say to someone to begin with, no matter who they are, because that's not how you talk to people. Never. No matter
unless they're actually screaming at you. And like when Tony and Sarah were talking to each other, and I don't remember which one. I think it was Sarah was just like blowing up, and he was just like, "It's gonna work. It's gonna be okay." And she's actually blowing up at Tony. Like even then, it's like, it's okay. It's gonna work. Trust me. You don't be like, I can't talk to you when you're this emotional. I can't.
Correct.
I can't even. And when he was walking through, I know we're beating Jonathan to death here. I stand up for a guy.
He deserves it. But listen, he deserves it.
Listen,
this episode's bad for him.
When he was walking with Marianne and through the woods right at the very beginning, where he was gonna say we have to go to Drea, like right when that plan started, and he was walking. Marianne at one point like turned to look back at like at Drea a little bit as they're walking into the distance. Jonathan literally puts his arm and like reaches behind Marianne and kind of like not shoos her, but like puts his hand on her back, like keep walking kind of deal. Like physically imposes his will. And that was before the Lindsay conversation. That was before
your true
exactly. And Sheldon, nobody loves you. Every season is I try to watch people's body language and how it changes. Right. And like Abraham was the worst last season because he's basically just like didn't give a shit about anybody and just like turned his back on groups when they're crying and everything. This was Jonathan's body language change right there, where he put his back or his hand on her back and basically said, like, you're coming with me and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. And then what do we hear in a confessional like 2 seconds later is Marianne being like, he's talking down to me like I'm a child and he can just tell me what to do. And I'm like, whereas if he just would have sat down and like, you know what, I'm really worried about idols that aren't in our alliance, right?
Even crazier, he is not planning to vote Tory, but he also doesn't want to clue Tory in to what's happening because he's afraid that she's going to tell Drea, who has been very clear they do not get along, and Lindsay is trying to tell him this, and he does not seem to understand how this game is played.
But to be fair, that's probably the only smart thing he did. Because every single person in this season who has gone to Tori with a logical argument, Tori said, watch me flip the script and get them all paranoid at each other. And she would
all of a sudden work with Drea. That's not happening.
I'm not saying she would work with Drea, but I'm saying she would fuck everybody over by telling Drea the plan just to make everybody blow up.
Marianne already told Tori the plan and she had no interest in telling Drea. Because if it's not Drea, it's me tonight. That's how Tori sees it. Because that's exactly what it was, right?
Sheldon nailed it, man. Jonathan didn't have his brain.
Correct. Yes.
Can I just say one other thing? If I'm playing this game, I'm trying to get as much insight from every other player in this game as I possibly can. So I want to shut up and I want to listen because maybe, just maybe, Lindsay's going to say something interesting that's going to make me make a better decision. And the lack of, I don't know what the word is either, but
testicles.
No, it's not even testicles. It's the lack of a brain.
I'm saying it wasn't a man talking to him. That's
the lack of a brain to say I could learn something from you.
Yes,
is ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. So we go to the first tribal council, and it's a guys group. It's all the guys there. Romeo thinks it's probably him. Rox is like everything's been pretty chill, pretty calm.
And that's when you know he's screwed.
And that's when you know he's in trouble, right? That's when you know
that makes
Rox
the edit. You're like.
Yep. Nothing real eventful happened here. No one said anything real mind-blowing. They go to the vote. It's a 4-1 vote. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Rox is gone. Right? Rox wrote Romeo. That's the thing. If no one's talking and everything's simple, that means it's probably you. But Rox has been playing Survivor 6 this whole time, so I'm glad that he got to see. He thought you know what, it was 6. He thought it was the Amazon, men versus women. He thought that's what he was playing, and he just figured out that it was not the Amazon. In fact,
was that
he was out here.
Oh my God, you're right. This show's been around forever, man. Jeez, it feels like yesterday. God damn.
Yeah, and so it was Survivor 6. Okay, and then we get to the next tribal council. The heavy one, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, in the top of the hour, when they walked in and they saw that Rox was sitting there, it changed the game. Now, the thing I want to talk about that we didn't get to talk about too much is when Marianne says that she's not voting Drea, she's not writing Drea's name down at all, and then she says that I also have to play my idol tonight because I don't want anyone to think that this conversation, quote unquote, saved me because I'm black.
Yep.
So I have to also play my idol tonight and I loved how she said, I'm not getting votes. I don't believe I'm going home at all, but I'm playing this because I have to, because if I don't, the internet trolls and the people on podcasts are going to say, look at them using race as a weapon and using their blackness against people. Because that's what they do to us. That's what people do to us, right? And so look at them using their blackness against the other people on their tribe to keep themselves safe. So they had to play their idols. And I love that at the same time, Jeff's like, well, we're going to get to that part. Because as they say they're going to use it, this conversation changes because Jeff then says, do you guys feel more uncomfortable about the fact that you have to get up and do it in private? Or would you like to break the mold and just have this conversation right here? What was the first thing Jonathan said?
Yep, I know who I'm voting for.
I don't remember. I'll be honest with you. I don't remember.
Jonathan, before he said he knew he was voting for, he said, hey, are those two going to play those idols right now? Or what? Because Jonathan is missing the fact that this is bigger than these idols right now. He's missing the fact that this is bigger than what is happening in this game. They just had a probably hour-long discourse, at least half an hour, because this conversation obviously is edited. They probably talked about this for at least half an hour to get this much footage.
At least.
And Jonathan's first question is, well, do they just play their idols right now or what?
Yeah.
His mind is not understanding what's happening around him.
No.
So in unison, they say, hey, there's not a problem, no sweat. They both stand up in unison, walk to Jeff. Here's the idols. Jeff says these are, in fact, real idols. So these two are safe. So then Jonathan goes, well, I guess it's going to be Tori. Like, that's just it.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of this, how this tribal started going down?
I'm of two minds on it. I think it's a shame and it's sad and unfair that Marianne had to really, in the end, kind of waste her idol. Waste is a strong word. But I feel sad that she felt obligated to do that because of this is literally outside the game stuff, impacting the game in almost as extreme a manner as it can be. Almost as if somebody had to leave the game. Like wasting an idol at this point in the game could be the difference between winning and losing. When her back is up against the wall in 2 or 3 weeks and it's down to final 6, final 5, and all of a sudden she doesn't have that idol, like that was sad to me. Okay, I feel like that wasn't fair for her, but I understand 100% why she did it because she's probably right. Like if
she's not probably right, she is
right. Like the world would have looked at that as, you know what, the whole episode they talked about splitting votes, and then all of a sudden neither of them got votes, and it was all after a race conversation. So if they were going to get votes, then the race conversation happened, and they didn't get votes, then the correlation must be because of the race conversation they didn't get votes. Like that would have been 30 seconds after the episode, actually before it even ended. Twitter would have been blowing up about it. Like before the next time on Survivor, that already would have been on Twitter. So I think from a life perspective, it was obviously the right play. I feel like from a game perspective, it was a shame that she had to get to that point. And once again, it's just another issue that other people haven't had to deal with. That is an unfair burden that Marianne just right there had to carry and had to use it. All of that said, I feel like it was also strange. I don't know if it was right or wrong. Like I said, this episode is really fresh. For anybody watching this, we just watched the episode and came right on here. I don't know how I feel about Jeff imposing, almost on ethical grounds, imposing a live tribal where everybody votes openly, because it takes away, like, for example, the move that Romeo did, like things like that, where there's gameplay to be had in every single tribal. And maybe tomorrow I'll wake up and I'll be like, you know what, it makes sense. What Jeff basically did was say, we're taking gameplay out of it. But for Tori, he didn't take gameplay out of it, right? Like, Tori got voted out. That's still game for her. Like, her game is over now. So Jeff, I think, was trying to walk the line on, this is bigger than the game. Let's get the nitty gritty, dirty stuff out of the way. You don't have to go in private and actually write someone's name down and put your stamp on the emotion of the moment. We can come together as a group, make a consensus as a group. But maybe as a group, one voice is louder than the rest. Maybe as a group, maybe Lindsay would have went home if they actually would have had time to whisper to each other, because it's Jonathan's ally. Like, maybe Tori probably still would have went home. But what I'm saying is, it felt strange that I felt that was imposed on the group. And I don't know how I feel about that at this moment. I don't know how I feel.
Well, I'm gonna let Sheldon jump in here, but the last time this was done was when Varner outed Zeke in Game Changers, right? Yeah. And when things go beyond the game, when things go beyond the game,
but Tori didn't. This is. I hear what you're saying. It's a beyond the game moment.
Tori wasn't the perpetrator.
Tori didn't. Correct. Tori didn't do anything to deserve not having a moment of whatever she could have done. Now, at least she got to play her dice. They didn't just tell her she's leaving.
No, she got to do what she was going to do. Yeah. She asked them. She has to do something that you never get to do, right? You found out what the vote was going to be at Tribal, and then she got a chance to actually ask. Sheldon, what are your thoughts on how the Tribal went down?
Yeah, I think I'm actually closer to where Robbie is on this. I think that there is almost a sacred piece of, like, Tribal is a sacred thing, and it could have been a possibility that after they went to vote, maybe Tori didn't pull her shot in the dark. Maybe Marianne wouldn't have voted. Sorry, maybe Marianne wouldn't have used her actual idol, which in the game I don't think she should have, and she'd used it because of what we were talking about, because of what it would have looked like outside of the game. So from a game perspective, like, I do sort of wish that there was a real Tribal vote, because, as I said, Tori was not the perpetrator. I think it was obvious in the Varner round that, Varner's out. It's done. Everybody's voting out Varner. There's no other choice here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It sort of felt strange to me in the moment as well. But at the same point, it wasn't as though they didn't let Tori use her shot in the dark. So it's not like it was almost as if it actually happened, except everybody went up and screamed out, "Yeah, I'm voting for Tori." Well, and everybody showed their cards. So I don't know.
But and I guess really to put my point on this is, like I said, this is only an hour ago. It's hard to decide how you feel as a human being about something as heavy as this in an instant. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I have very strong feelings on some stuff, very strong feelings towards other, but on this I'm still torn. And one of the reasons I always put examples in my mind of what if, right? What if this exact same scenario happened, but somebody in this tribe other than Drea, coincidentally, had some of all these crazy abilities, steal the votes, extra votes, whatever it was, safety without power or whatever, like people who could do stuff with their votes. They would have been forced to do that in front of everybody at that point, instead of it being secret. When an extra vote came out, but what the hell happened there? No chance to lie about it. Like, all those gameplay aspects were stripped from anybody from doing those, right? Now, maybe Jeff in the moment had somebody in his ear saying, nobody has anything but those idols. you can do a live tribal, right? Like maybe production was literally saying like, you're safe to do that if you want. Maybe he got up and walked away for a minute and came back. Like we don't know what the edit actually shows, right? Or what doesn't show. But what I'm saying is there's so many iterations of this game where, somebody could have done something where they could have wanted to lie about it afterwards. And maybe it was an extra vote, steal a vote, whatever. And when you have a live tribal imposed upon you, in the Varner situation, that was a no-brainer. But in this one, I feel like with 5 people there, who knows what could have happened. And I don't know. Maybe it was the right thing. Maybe it wasn't. I don't feel strong. And when I do feel strongly, I say it. So this is rare for me to say I don't know how I feel about it. But I don't know.
So I know, Kevin, you have something to say about this. To me, I would have preferred, I think I would have felt a little bit more comfortable with it, is if it was the players who said, let's just vote here. So because it started from Jeff, I sort of see what Robbie's actually saying. I've used that in orgs as a strategy before too. And that sort of worked as part of the game for me, but it was never under these it wasn't under this context. And after this conversation, I don't know. Kevin, what do you think?
So as a black man, this is different. This has to be different. And the reason this has to be different is because the discourse that happened before, all the conversation, everything that was happening before was different. The fact, and it's very interesting, both of you had this points, because your points more similar, I felt like, to Jonathan, in terms of wanting to continue on with the game. When Jeff, yes, has to, by the letter of the law, someone has to go home tonight.
Yeah.
That's kind of how the game part of this works. But if everyone his mind is made up, because I'm positive that if anyone said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do tonight, Jeff, in terms of Lindsay or Tori, then they would have said, well, okay, then it's Tori, you're first up to vote. But the moment he said, do you guys want to just do this not in secret, Jonathan says, let's keep the game going and make sure the two of them play their idols. There's only 2 people that it could be. It could be Lindsay or it could be Tori. And that is all. It cannot be anyone else.
Has Lindsay played her shot in the dark yet?
No.
And no. That was the other thing that bothered me, was the show immediately, because the group was like, yeah, we're all going to vote Tori. Jeff said, all right, Tori, you might as well play your shot in the dark. And if you are safe, Lindsay goes home.
No. Jeff did not say you might as well play the shot in the dark. He did not say that. She said that.
Yeah.
She said that I'm going to play. The reason that's important. No, the reason that's important is because if Lindsay also said, well, I'm going to play my shot in the dark as well, Jeff would have said, go ahead and do the same.
So what would have happened?
But he did.
It would have been 3-0.
He explicitly said the opposite. He says, all right, Tori, you get up and play your shot in the dark. If you're safe, Lindsay goes home. She goes and gets it, comes back, sits down, opens it in front of everybody. At no point, like I said to my wife right away, I'm like, why isn't Lindsay playing hers? It makes no sense not to play hers right now.
I'm sure at that point it was a editing thing, because I'm sure they asked Lindsay, do you intend to play your 100%? That one has to be.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Like, there's no reason
why. Robbie, sorry, I'm going to stop you for a second, because I'm actually really interested in what Kevin is saying, because he has a very different perspective, obviously, than the two of us do. And he's saying that this moment was so culturally important and so actually important for TV, for society, for everything, that having a regular tribal council would just not be appropriate.
Correct.
Is that right? So that's really, like, I get that. That makes.
I would have respected it if he would have canceled tribal council.
He couldn't. You couldn't.
But here's the thing. But to Tori didn't cause anything that happened.
So Robbie, you cannot cancel tribal council, because now, of course it got canceled because they brought up race. Because they brought up race, so of course it got canceled. The black people got this canceled.
Right.
The black people got their tribal council canceled and got themselves safe. It's the discourse that happens after all the conversation. I keep saying discourse because the conversation that happens after all these things happen is why things have to be different.
Yeah, and if Drea blows up her game next episode and plays horribly and gets voted out just because of her game, the discourse will be the same again, where it won't be because of the gameplay, it'll be because of everything that happened, that people and Jonathan's whatever, innate whatever, things aren't going to be fair that happen. What I'm saying is,
I don't know.
I don't feel like Tori deserved to basically, like, everybody right there. Like, there was a point in this episode Tori wasn't going home, right?
Yeah. And
then
Drea
used her idol.
Drea played her idol.
Sure.
They played using game mechanics.
Yeah.
They kept themselves safe. So then now Tori's the next one to go.
Some game mechanics were kept and some weren't. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying that I don't think it's a black and white thing. No pun intended there. It's a really, really horrible pun. But I don't think it's a black and white thing where, it was 100% the right move to do not have a normal tribal. I'm saying that it's a debate because of the fact that
But there was a debate. There was 3 people that were safe and 2 people on the block, and it's because of Lindsay's strong relationships.
But then every tribal
everybody
could be
else,
like
she stayed.
So every tribal could be like that, where every tribal people could just talk openly. But what I'm saying is, in Survivor, there's typically a vote, right?
There was,
and this wasn't a vote. There was a vote. But it wasn't.
Jonathan said, "I'm voting for Tori."
I'm a big, powerful voice, Jonathan. I'm Jonathan's friend. Who's left? Tori goes home. Nothing special else can happen.
If Marianne and Drea say we're going to vote Lindsay, then Tori votes Lindsay with them. But they didn't. They all said they were voting Tori. In fact, Tori says to Drea, "Why are you voting for me? You've been coming for me since Ika." Cool. Then she said, "Cool, true." Yeah. Next. Yeah. Oh, she says, "Not true," but next. Jonathan says, "You like
exactly, cool. Not true." Yeah. Lindsay tried and failed horribly to save herself right there.
Tori.
Sorry, yeah. But Lindsay not playing her shot in the dark still blew my mind.
I'm positive that Jeff said, and once Tori said, "I'm playing my shot in the dark," I'm positive he said to Lindsay, "Would you like to play yours?"
Maybe that's the case. Like I said, we just watched this. I don't remember him saying that.
Oh, he didn't ask her on the camera in the edit because
I remember everybody saying, "Okay, who are we all going to vote for as a group?" Sorry, Tori, you're the odd one out. All right, well, I better play my shot in the dark. And then Jeff goes, "If she's safe, Lindsay, you're gone." And he says that before she even gets up.
I want to ask a technical question because I still don't understand the shot in the dark business.
Yeah.
It's now a 2 in 12 chance. So it's a 1 in 6 chance.
They all could have been safe.
But so is it if Tori goes,
no, I don't think the odds reduce. I think it's still a 2 and it's still like
2 and 12. It's still 1 in 6 are the odds, but there's physically 12.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah. I got you.
But is that for an individual? So basically what I'm trying to say is Tori could have gone up, taken something that said safe. Did they then put in another safe scroll? Lindsay goes up and then picks.
We don't know.
We brought that up last season. They don't explicitly say it. My assumption is no, because if they were going to say that, then they could pick any number. But it's not a coincidence that when there's 6-person tribes, they have 6 scrolls. And then when there's a 12-person tribe, they go up to 12 scrolls.
But that is unfair. That's statistically unfair.
What are you talking about?
It's statistically unfair because then if you are the last person to actually vote, you have a far greater chance of getting something that's safe.
I get what you're saying because you reduce the numbers. I think it probably happens that if all 3 of us if the 3 of us are voting, and Robbie says, "I'm going to use my shot in the dark," and I say, "I'm also going to use my shot in the dark." I think Robbie goes up there, he pulls a scroll. I think they reset whatever scroll that Robbie pulled. I think they put that put in there, and then I now pull also 2 and 12 shots.
I understand what you're saying, but it makes no sense because of the fact that I get it from the odds, but the odds are supposed to be changing. That's the whole point of having multiple scrolls. Why not just roll the dice? They literally have a dice, Sheldon. They can literally just roll the dice, and it could be 6 sides, 1 and 6. It could be literally on the dice, right? But what I'm saying is, why then do they have it when there's a 6-person tribe, 6 scrolls, and when there's a 12-person tribe, 12 scrolls? It's so that if everybody plays it, they all can get a scroll. That's the only logical answer.
I want to ask another question, although I kind of feel bad talking about strategy and the game stuff because I think the race stuff was actually a lot more important. But I'm going to ask a bit of a strategic question as well. If Jonathan wasn't safe, would he have left tonight?
Yes.
You know what? I think the quick answer is definitely yes. But the fact that Tori and Drea hate each other so much, I don't think it would be a 4-1, but
I think it's very easy that if Jonathan talks to them the way he did tonight, then yes. If he
but he wouldn't have talked that way if he wasn't safe.
Yeah, if he continues to be like low key, my mild manner, and saying to Drea, "What do you want to do?" Drea's going to say, "I want to do Tori." Like that makes the most sense. And now if Tori's safe, he's going to have to be the one to bring up Marianne's name. And I think that the conversation still changes if they walk in and Rox is sitting there, because now Drea doesn't want to do Marianne.
Do you think that if Rox didn't go home, Drea would have gone home?
Yes.
Wow.
If
she wouldn't have played her idol.
I don't know that she does.
I don't think so. I think you would have walked in there. Yeah, Romeo's sitting there. That's what you expected to happen. You expect Tori to go home. Same thing.
Wow. This was a night. I learned. I have to say that part of me always actually hates when these games become sort of real lifey. But then there's nights like this where I actually felt like Drea and Marianne keeps on surprising me because I don't know. I thought that she was just a loud, emotional person. And she's smart as fuck. Excuse my French. But I learned a lot tonight. So it was a great episode. It was a really great episode.
I would like to speak to that, Sheldon, because in the past I've felt similarly. And one of the things that I've tried to be very open with is the fact that, like anybody in the world, the word ignorant means you don't even know you don't know. You know what I mean? Like that's what it means. So everybody needs to be able to open up to the fact that maybe there's a perspective that you're unaware of that you would benefit from becoming aware of, because that's just the reality of it that you don't know, you can't relate to. And one of the things that opened my eyes a little bit too was, in the past, I would almost feel like how some people feel attacked when you'd say, okay, well, because of race is why you were voting them out, only because of this, because of that, even though it's not the words that were being said. And I would almost get frustrated when some of these types of episodes would happen where it was strictly based on race. And then it kind of dawned on me where it was like, well, why is it that it bothers some people when a race conversation comes up? And yet when we see a conversation about Romeo and how he's going through life in a way that I haven't gone through, right? With he's in a different demographic than I am, or we see people going through all these other types of walks of life that are different and difficult and hardships and all these things that they're going through, and how that comes into the game, that plays a role in the game. I just watch it like a TV, and I watch it like, yeah, that's a heartfelt, empathetic moment. I'm not offended by it. Why is it only when it's a black and white thing do people all of a sudden get loud and offended? When High sat with Romeo and they talked about, their sexuality and the openness and how life is difficult and all that stuff, I wasn't offended by that conversation. You know what I mean? And that's one of those things that kind of opened my eyes a little bit, where it's like, well, why is it that some people get offended by only this conversation that we saw tonight? And you'll see the same thing on Twitter. You'll see the same thing when you see people doing recaps and breakdowns and all this stuff of these shows. How, well, why is this coming in? Why is this coming in? Why is this coming in? This is the hardship that a group of people are going through in real life. And we have hardships that a lot of other groups are going through. And why is it that we can accept listening to, or the word tolerate, I'm using that intentionally here as a negative. Why is it that people tolerate those other conversations, but get offended by this? And I think a lot of people should kind of open their eyes a little bit to, if you're offended by these conversations, then that is a self-commentary in a way. And, Jonathan being as defensive as he was, as much as it makes sense, is a commentary, right? Yes. And, I'm not a special person. I'm the same way. I have to better myself as a human being, and I try, and I listen to Kevin's perspective as like he said, as a black man watching this show from his perspective, compared to my perspective as a white man watching this show. And I try to assimilate that to, okay, how am I not seeing this? And I use it as an opportunity to learn. And I think, Sheldon, you're kind of saying the same thing, where you use it as an opportunity to learn. And I hope more people do that. And I guess that's the only thoughts that I have. Like, if you're offended by this conversation, maybe you should open your eyes a little bit.
I think that was well said. I think that was very well said. Sheldon, you have anything you want to promote?
I don't want to promote anything after that episode and after our conversation. So, I'll do a quick promotion, but I want to say thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Robbie. I I think I am sometimes uncomfortable talking about a race. It is not easy because my fear is always that I will say the wrong thing and I will actually hurt somebody. But as I have a lot more of these conversations, I'm sort of in this place of saying, I better be okay being uncomfortable, because there's a lot of people out there who live their life and walk the streets being uncomfortable. And if, I'm a little bit uncomfortable, that's great. Let it be. Let it be. Um, from a promotion perspective, check out Big Brother Canada recap. This is so strange after a real conversation to promote something, but you know what? So I won't really promote it that hard. But Big Brother Canada for the fans entertainment coverage. Fridays 8 p.m., Tuesdays 8 p.m. We're down to the almost end. Finale is May 5th, so check us out.
Robbie, anything?
I got nothing, man. Just happy that I experienced tonight's episode, and I'm really, thankful that Survivor and hopefully all of reality TV is moving in the direction that it's moving, and people are gonna, learn what the real world is like. And that benefits everybody.
I want to say this finally. Episodes like the one tonight are very important to show and to educate. The casting on this was done. It was spearheaded by a large group of Black survivors that felt like we were underrepresented and they were undershown on the show, both in front of the camera and behind the camera. So when you have situations like tonight show up, though it may be uncomfortable for some, it is, as they have, Robbie and Sheldon have both mentioned, it is for some people's everyday life. And when Drea walked in there and she saw that she was possibly, I'm sure she thought about herself being next, but Rockshroy being there was not according to the plan that was put in place. And she saw that the familiar pattern was repeating itself. I commend her and Marianne for standing up and saying that they will not be next in line, a part of the pattern. When Marianne said that she came on the show to fight against injustices and speak out against them, I basically applauded her in my heart. I'm sitting here watching it by myself, so I'm not going to stand up and clap. But I applauded her because she said that this is an injustice that has been happening to herself, her people that are like her, and she wanted to make sure that she was there to help stop it. Drea saying that she's going to play her idol while she was still processing everything, because she said, I will not be next in line, because even if I don't even know if I'm going home or not at that moment, I'm just going to play it because I'm going to make sure that I'm here tomorrow. So that way I break that line of things happening. So I respect them. I appreciate them. Representation matters. It's one of the most important things. If you listen this long, thank you for joining us. I hope you can join us on Friday and see us in the future. We'll be back next week. Adios. Good night.
Good night.